Newington has too many, and now there's tons of traffic, or Brownwell in Middletown, where it's almost too much, but to have some would be nice, because that way you don't have to leave the town that you grew up in and you love and your family and friends are in, and wait until you can afford to come back, you know?
We also have a problem. There's a wealth manager doing what I do for a living.
What was that?
I said, there's a wealth manager doing what I do for a living.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Jim, can you hear us?
Spend $150,000 for college education.
Just want to
And
make
then
sure.
come out with a degree, you know, arts is gonna pay you $20,000 a year.
Oh, yeah.
So you have to have some.
Can you hear me? Yes, I can.
Yes, yes, great, terrific. Okay. Okay, so are we not going to have George tonight?
George is not available.
State, isn't he?
Okay, I couldn't remember.
George
Yes,
is
Amy knows other states.
Amy's out.
Yes, I know Amy had a. It is just 6:32 right now. Mr. Vice Chair, would you like to begin?
Yes, I would.
Thank you.
Since it's 6:30, I'll call the meeting to order. Second that.
I second that.
Thank you. And to go through the agenda quickly, I guess we'll first do the pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And for roll call, we have Jennifer, is it Capala? Am I gonna put you? Capola, sorry about that.
That's fine, thank you.
Maureen
Juicy.
and your staff liaison?
I'm the acting town planner and yeah, one of the staff liaisons.
Okay. And
You try.
are you signed in? You're not signed in.
I'm not signed in.
You're not signed in, so I can't even try it.
So one point generally, we do only the committee members.
Okay, so the committee members, Arosh.
Yes, that's good.
the committee members in attendance today are myself, Robert Zabrowski. We'll go around and just say who's here.
Tracy Shipman,
Ian Gamlin.
Chris Capola.
Tracy Sissy.
Okay, so our meeting today before the informational meeting was primarily for two things: to approve the survey that was sent out to us just recently, and to also discuss future meeting dates. So to discuss the draft housing plan survey, since that just came out to everybody recently, I don't know if you wanted to start
Yes.
the discussion, Tracy, on that?
I'm happy to do that. And again, this is Jennifer Capola for the record, for the folks that are at home. And I work for Seulin D'Onofrio, which is corporation counsel to the town of Berlin. And I have practiced land use now for 23 years. I am advising other communities as well on the drafting of their affordable housing plan. And again, we're having a very short meeting tonight with the Affordable Housing Plan Advisory Committee that has been created by the town council to help facilitate the preparation of Berlin's affordable housing plan. And the drafting of this plan is not something that is up to the town. It is a legal requirement. There was a passage of revision to the affordable housing law, which is at 8-30G, to add section 8-30J back in 2017, requiring all municipalities to submit an affordable housing plan by July 24th of 2022. That date was pushed to June 1st of 2022. So all 169 municipalities in the state of Connecticut are preparing. Some have prepared already, but many are in the process right now of preparing an affordable housing plan. And we'll mention this as well. Many are probably aware The town does have a plan of conservation and development. That plan also does talk about affordable housing and has for a number of years. That plan currently is in the process of being updated, again, another requirement by state law. And I mention that because they're doing some things, the town is doing some things related to the update of the POCD that are somewhat similar to what's going to be occurring for the preparation of the affordable housing plan. I don't want people to be confused. And I'll talk a little bit about that when we go into the public informational session upstairs in the council chambers at 7 o'clock. So again, this meeting is a meeting of the Affordable Housing Plan Advisory Committee created by the town council. They have 2 items on their agenda for tonight. The first item is the 2021 Berlin Housing Plan Survey. And the survey mechanism is something that's being used by many of the towns to get initial input from town residents and other interested persons into getting a sense of the needs of the community and what people think about housing generally and what people's thoughts, people's desires, and ultimately a sense of, where are people living? What's going on in people's households? And yeah, that's not the best way to say that. I'll get a little clearer on that. What are people thinking about their futures in terms of housing? What are the desires of the people that live in the community with regard to housing issues within the community? So I have drafted this plan. It's gotten some input. We have Jim, I hope you will speak out throughout tonight when you think it's necessary. We have Jim Mahoney. I know he was with you on your first meeting as well. So Jim is your economic development consultant. He's served the town for many years. He has tremendous historical knowledge about the town. So he's a wealth of information. You're going to hear from him a lot throughout this process. We also have your planner, Maureen Giusti, who I work very closely with on all things zoning. Maureen as well, a wealth of knowledge about affordable housing under your regs, the developments you already have in town, and where you're going. Okay, so in terms of the survey, so the initial portion of it obviously is to tell people about the committee, why are you doing this? The fact that, this again is a state requirement, we've got to comply with it. I've been asked repeatedly what's going to happen if we don't do this. People have literally stopped me in the grocery store and I said, well, I don't know. All I know is we have this law that says you got to submit this by such and such a date. I do know that there have been other things that towns have not complied with, such as some towns have not Berlin, have not complied with the legal requirement of filing a POCD and updating that POCD in accordance with the law, and they've gotten letters that they're not going to get state funded. So that could be one potential impact, but I don't know because I've not been told by anybody in any position of authority what it might mean not to submit the plan on time. But I've also been asked is, and I'm going to repeat some of this upstairs as well, if we have particularly if we have a larger audience than we have here. I hope everybody can hear me. If you can't, just yell at me. I'm fine with that. I've also been asked, are they going to change the law? Is that why they're doing that? And again, I don't know the answer to that question. We can't concern ourselves with that. We've got to focus on the task at hand. Okay, you all have been given the guidebook. And that guidebook was prepared, and I participated in a webinar leading up to the distribution of that guidebook. That guidebook was prepared to give you the methodology by which you're to complete this task. Okay, it has very specific and I distributed a timeline to you. It has very specific guidance in it about the content, okay? It's from our state Department of Housing. It's from regional plan. It's from, people who, this is what they do. They do housing, they do planning, and that's our guidance, okay? So we're gonna listen to them because they're the experts, and they're the ones who, determined that, this was the path that they were gonna take, the state was gonna take in terms of requiring this, of course, and recommendations to the legislature. So, your
Can I
survey,
ask a question?
Yes.
yeah,
You want me to wait?
let's get through what the survey contents are. And I'm definitely gonna take questions too, just because we have to be upstairs at 7. We're definitely gonna take questions, Jen, Lori, and I, Roosh, in the context of the public meeting as well. So if there's survey-related questions, then absolutely. I just want to draw your attention to sort of what the thinking was when I drafted this. Okay. So obviously, we want to tell people there's a legal requirement, right? We want to tell people about the committee. What's the point of the committee? This survey is coming from you. Okay, it's coming from ultimately to the town council, legislative body of the town. They're the ones who are going to act to adopt the survey. Okay, we want to talk about, hey, members of the public, you're interested in this. We want you to be interested. We want your input. There's going to be opportunities for you. Attend these committee meetings. We're going to have public informational sessions. We are going to I'm putting together with your IT department and your town clerk a page on your website. Okay, it's going to have content. It's going to have the guidebook up there so people can understand what's going into your plan. Okay, and I also,
That's what my question was
Yep.
about.
yeah, we're going to do that. We're going to do 7, 8. They're going to
No,
have the
it's actually the
information.
guidebook
in that.
itself,
Okay.
because the first paragraph was, why do we need affordable housing?
Mhm.
All the things they said, elderly people downsizing, young people that want to get started at home, those are all, I agree with all of them, sounds great. When you went on to the next article, none of that was mentioned again. There's a whole different narrative after that. So who pulled the guidebook together? The state? And then
So-
secondly, we had a 10% requirement for, I believe, affordable housing. And the developments that we have coming in, we're going to hit that because we're behind 9% now. So my question is that going to be changed? That OD, do you think, will that be changed? Is that what they're trying to do?
So we don't know the answer to that. I will say this too, and I don't know, Maureen, you may have been on that webinar that they had before they distributed the guidebook. So they distributed the guidebook in, I guess it was December of last year. But in November, they had a webinar. They had folks who work at the Department of Housing, and in fact, specifically, they had folks who control. You're referring to the Affordable Housing Appeals List that we did distribute to the committee. So those are the folks that determine whether or not specific housing units do get credit for being affordable housing under the law. Okay, and those are the folks who are running that webinar. And one of them, and I won't call him by name, but he said very specifically, the purpose of this process is to really figure out community need, okay? And he said it may be that, you go through this, because they had known at that point, the housing needs assessment was gonna be a recommendation, that the land use and zoning assessment was gonna be a recommendation in terms of the information gathering and all of that. He said very specifically that some towns may find they only need 4% affordable housing. And the next, the town next door may find they need 12, So that's the only answer I could really give you. Again, I don't know whether they're going to change, and we don't like to look at the 10% as a goal, but a threshold. We don't like to call it a goal. We're not supposed to call it a goal, but a threshold.
Well, if we don't hit it, they
Well, we're
pull
going to.
funding away and things of that nature, so it is a goal.
Well, I, in terms of that comment of mine was that could be a repercussion of not submitting the plan in a timely fashion. I don't know that they don't do that to towns because they're not at 10%, because there's 130 some odd towns out of the 169 of the state that are not at 10%. So they're not penalizing you for not being at 10%.
Most of them
talk
that are
about-
on the list, that come around 80,000 population, almost all of them are under.
Absolutely. So again, in terms of the survey, so that's your introduction. We did put in, because you do have obviously people in your community, as all communities do, some folks who do have limited English proficiency. We thought it was important to explain to them, how they could access the language assistance services that the town has. Then we have this question at the end of, your introductory letter, so to speak, okay? What do you think affordable housing is? Okay, because we do hear, people say it's Section 8 housing, it's low income housing. And then obviously we think of affordable as affordable, right? Something that's cheap, something that's less expensive. And that's affordable to us, right? So as personally affordable as well, right? Some people might think of it as, older housing. Older housing is less expensive, right? Housing for people earning minimum wage, right? So we thought, and Jim and I have discussed this, and I discussed it a bit with Maureen, it's important to explain to people in as basic a way as we can what is affordable housing under the law. Because in terms of how we define affordable housing, it is a legal definition. It's defined in our state law. Okay, so again, I know Jeff talked to you about this a bit. I don't want to go through it verbatim. I know that you've read it, but that threshold for us about what is affordable is what prices are being offered for rental or ownership of properties. Okay, that households that earn 80% or less of the area median income, can they afford to live there? I mean, that's ultimately what it is, right? So we have an area median income currently for, you belong to the Hartford area, the town of Berlin belongs to the Hartford area, of $104,300. So again, the AMI means 50% in that Hartford area. So Hartford, West Hartford, East Hartford, the Metro Farmington River area. They earn, 50% earn more than 104,300, and 50% earn less.
Now, Jennifer, for the purposes of this meeting, we have to look at the survey, whether or not we have 10 minutes.
Yep.
And we're on question 1.
Yep.
So as far, I understand the background, I think what you're going into is more of what you need to do upstairs at 7 o'clock. But I think we need to discuss the survey specifically, and try to do it a bit quicker. Sorry to rush you.
No, that's okay.
But as to what's in here and whether it's appropriate for us to approve the survey at this point so that it can get put out and answers.
So as going through the survey, the idea was, have people look back first. What's your housing history? What are all the different kinds of housing that you lived in, right? What's your current housing situation? Where do you live in town? How long have you lived there? How many people are in your household? What type of house do you live in? And are there any other types of housing that could accommodate your needs? Okay. Then looking at future housing in terms of your next home. Do you want something larger or smaller? Do you want to own or rent? Right. And then what type of housing do you want that housing to be? When, I think this is something, this next question was something that was noticeably absent from many of the surveys that I looked at. Nobody said, when are you planning for, or when do you think you will plan for your next move? Is it going to be in the next 5 years? Because we're doing an affordable housing plan that's going to cover the next 5 years. So you're going to move in the next 5 years? And do you want to stay in the town you're in? Do you want to remain in Berlin? So that question is asked as well. Then housing needs of others known to you. Again, a noticeable gap in many of the surveys that I looked at. Do you have any Italian that live in your household? And then no, do they have minor children? But also, do they have adult children? Right? Do they have relatives? I think I mentioned this previously to some of you. You know, we've got a shift in housing circumstances for people, where people are taking in parents, right? Or young families just starting out or going back to live with their parents, okay? So, you know, also we gotta consider children that are temporarily living elsewhere for school or for work, who may be anticipating coming back to Berlin, right? So, so we have in here, you know, if you have any adult children over 18 or any relatives who, older relatives are living in their household today, you know, are they planning, are they looking towards, to your knowledge, are they looking towards moving out? And what are they looking for? What type of housing are they looking for? And then, you know, some just a general question about keeping in mind that definition, which how they're going to get the definition. Do you personally know anyone else aside from those people living with you, or your child who may be away that may come back? Do you know anybody else that would benefit for the town having more affordable housing? Then Berlin housing needs. Do you think there's enough housing overall in Berlin to satisfy the town's future needs, right? Are you concerned about cost of living? And do you anticipate that Berlin would benefit from offering more types of housing, including housing that's affordable? Then I put in some questions about, and this is more of a rating type question. Do you think that Berlin needs more certain types of rental or ownership housing units, affordable versus non-affordable? And that's what we mean by non-income restricted market rate, is essentially, you know, non-affordable, if you will. And questions about, you know, senior in that capacity as well, and whether or not folks think there's a need for more assisted living. Again, that capturing of, you know, do you know seniors who have that need? Is there not enough? Because that's a big issue. And there's some.
Jennifer, can I interrupt for 1 second?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I had my hand raised for a bit, and I'm going to try to get down there. Clearly not by 7, but the survey that you have in hand, I'm sure it'll get passed by the council. But can I get a copy of this, or is there an email? Can I get on the email distribution? I represent the town for the planning and development with the city, with the state of Connecticut. So I would like to be in this loop going forward. I did attend the first meeting. And the guidebook that you talk about that was distributed last December, I don't have a copy of that as well, and I would like to get a copy of that. So is that possible?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna try to get down there, and I'm gonna let you finish and see how people are reacting to this. Thank you. And Chris, just to let you know, 10% is what they are absolutely looking at going forward, and that's a minimum. And that's out of our senator's own lips, that is an absolute minimum they're looking for in terms of affordable housing percentage numbers. So I think we need to shoot beyond that, and we are clearly close to that 10%. And by the time we finish, as you know, with the projects that we have going on currently, we'll be beyond that that number. But 10% is like a minimum that they're looking for, and I do see them pushing that bar higher. And I'm sure that Mr. Mahoney will agree with me there. Thank you.
Thank you. In terms of impacts, okay, some of the towns asked specific questions. Do you agree or disagree that there will be, you know, impacts to traffic, for instance, if there's more housing, right? And a rating type thing. Agree, disagree, strongly disagree with a variety of those types of statements. So I just tightened that all up so that you didn't have, you know, 60 questions on your survey. So we asked positive, negative impact, no impact, and some suggestion about the types of impacts there could be and whether they're insured, and then just if they could, you know, list their thoughts on that. So in terms of if there's more need for a particular type of housing, what we contemplated doing was including pictures okay, at the various types of housing, so folks know what the heck we're talking about. We're talking about, you know, a 2-story or 3-story. Many people have never seen duplex. You know, they don't know, they look at them, but they don't quite know that that's what they're called, right? So we thought that that was a good way to capture it. Some towns did, do you need more of each of these types of housing for rental purposes? Do you need more for ownership purposes? And again, really, really, really long. And I don't know, and I was saying to Rob and to Ann, I don't, before the rest of you got here, I don't know how the average person would even have any idea about the demand for all those specific individual types of housing for rental purposes and ownership purposes. It seems difficult to conceptualize. And then just in terms of opinions on housing, there are a lot of towns that had opinions on housing kind of scattered throughout. So just, is it the government's responsibility to provide affordable housing? What do people think about that? You know, and related to that, a little further down at the end there, part of number 5, the town should look at whether there are any town-owned properties which could be used for providing housing options. That's actually in the guidebook. That's what that land use and zoning assessment is. Okay, but what do people think about that? Do they think that the town should be purchasing property too, or constructing affordable units and rehabilitating some properties? You know, one of the big things right now is adaptive reuse. You know, using some business commercial properties for housing as well. So in terms of private developers, do we want to require them always to provide some percentage of affordable? You have multiple affordable housing regulations in your town. You're unique in comparison to some other towns in that way. Some towns have no affordable housing regulations on the books. So that's it in a nutshell. Obviously, there's demographic stuff, and you know, try to kind of capture some additional information. I think the most important thing, just really quick about the demographic, is to ask how much do you think you're spending of your gross income on housing, because the number is actually huge, pretty much across the board in the state. So there's 130,000 people that are spending way more than $30,000, 30%. 30. I'm trying to talk to them. Than 30% of their income on housing.
I would think it'd be almost a lot of people.
Yes.
A few towns can skew that number. Brandon can skew that number on its own.
So essentially, I think that
I mean, they got a $2 million house there.
Yeah.
there's a lot of questions, obviously. I don't know if everybody had the chance to review them. It goes into the needs, the town's need, the needs they would have, the desires people have with regard to fair housing. I think it was important to see the part in there about the impacts, and people have to put in, there's a free form. You could put in what you think the impacts might be and what people are concerned about. And the important thing for people to know for the meeting at 7 o'clock too is that we are, although it's above the threshold, we're essentially already there, which is good it's a good relief feeling for the town, and we're just, the only requirement right now is to get this survey out and get this plan out. So I don't know
You
if
have to understand too that while some of the questions sound sort of intrusive, you're right. It's the only way that we're ever going to be able to figure out exactly what people are looking for in the future. And unfortunately, it's very hard for a lot of us to picture what we'll be doing in 10 years or 5 years.
Yeah, and if we feel that it hits all the buttons as far as the needs, the desires of people in the town, but also that they have an opportunity to comment on what they feel or fear or hope that the impact will be. I think that it covers everything. If we were to approve the survey at this time, which I think the plan was to do, the town council would eventually have to also approve it, and would there be further, no?
No, because I mean, we can't go to the council. We just don't have the time to go to the council.
I just thought they did
Yeah.
as rubber stamp, but I thought they did. Okay.
I was not intending to put it before the council.
Okay.
No.
Get chatted.
And I don't.
I just didn't know.
We certainly share it.
Yeah, speaking for everyone else here on the committee, I know that not everyone is, first of all, is here
Yes,
for the
well,
committee.
that's-
And second of all, has had the opportunity to review this with the amount of detail we may have liked to, because I got it today. Personally, I don't know about everybody else.
Yeah, I got mine today.
But at the same time, at our last meeting, the goal was to get this approved today so that we can get the survey out and get answers and findings within a month's time of today, so we're really up
Very
against,
tight.
it's very tight. So with all of that said, I just don't know, I can call for, a motion to approve the survey. I just don't know if anybody has any questions or concerns, if they have concerns because not everybody's had the time to comment on it. If they have, I assume they have it. If they did have comments, they would have responded to Jennifer directly.
So I just want to say this, so we did receive a draft survey from the consultant on Thursday.
Yeah. I'm not complaining about the
No,
timing of this
no,
work, yeah.
I'm saying it because I don't know if you also want to see that. Like, if you'd like to see that as well.
Yeah.
I can circulate that as well. I tried to sort of incorporate, I tried to be thoughtful and incorporate some of, and I don't know if Jim has any comments about that. Tried to incorporate some of the language
think
from
there's-
that draft as well.
Yeah, there's a lot there. It's a little long. Hopefully we get people to answer them. I'm just wanting to put it out to the committee because of the time, if everyone's comfortable with making a motion to approve the survey.
What
If I may, Mr. Chairman, just to suggest that if you give us, again, given the timing, if you give us a little latitude to make, some minor changes at staff discretion. And if you have a chance to look at it, if any of the commission members over the next day or so have something that they have a concern about, they can pass it on to us so we can make minor revisions. So if you could approve it with latitude that we can make some minor revisions, I think that would be a good thing.
And the other thing too, I would just recommend, I think it's perfectly fine to give the folks who are not here until the end of the week to get us any comments. And then I think what we do is we finalize it for it to be start to be distributed on Monday of next week. And I know it's Christmas week, but they're going to have enough time to respond.
Well,
Just so that we have it out before. I would like to see us have it out before Christmas.
No, and I agree. I just wanted to point out those issues. And with that said, and that specific plan in place, I would make a motion that we approve the survey as it is with the, again, as Jim said, staff discretion of people to add additional comments over the next couple of days. Maybe if it doesn't even take that long, hopefully it won't, we can get it out even quicker. Does anybody?
But if we approve it, then there's
You don't
no way that we can make anybody make a change.
You don't really need a motion.
Yeah, well, we can put an end date on it that it should be all set by Monday, for
Yeah.
example.
Yeah, that's-
Okay. That's all I need to do.
Yeah, I think we understand.
Yeah.
So I think we should let the folks that are not here, and you should keep in mind too, take another look at it. If there's language in particular, if you say, oh, I don't understand this terminology or something, could we change this? Can we make it a little simpler? We want to hear that from you. So look at it with that kind of a critical eye as well, because I think that's
I was
important.
gonna say, I just thought of even like the very first question, older housing.
Mhm.
Some people could say, well, is that for older people or meaning a home that's older? So it's maybe a little run down, needs work, so it's cheaper. Something simple like that. I could see people being confused over it. And I feel like even the cheap housing factor, it's like, what does that mean? Is that meaning like you can get a one bedroom apartment or a studio? It's going to cost cheaper even at market rate because of its size versus is it just a cheap apartment?
So essentially, the meeting upstairs, the informational meeting has to start. So I would just say that if Jennifer could get back to all of us too, because we didn't get to our entire agenda, maybe we can even have a quick Zoom meeting or something to see if anybody has any additions they want to make, first of all. And second of all, with the benefit of having everybody here, then go through the second item on our agenda, which was to set dates for future meetings. So with that, I'd like to adjourn the meeting. Let's second it.
And who's second?
Yeah.
Oh, Ann.
Tracy.
So I didn't know.
Okay, and it is 7:06.
Yeah, I don't know.
Thank you.
30 days. We need you.
They're not. They're not. They're not.
Yeah.
Is that what we're
Fine.
Way too much personal.
Because you sent the invite. It's on the one thing.
Oh,
You know what I'm
I
gonna do?
used your Zoom. Pro and Zoom. It's taken and I forgot. Thank you.
Go upstairs and plug it in. We go upstairs and plug it in.
Meeting income.
Only that you do.
Maybe, I'm thinking maybe if we can get some information.
The meeting's on.
Excuse me, why is the meeting being adjourned?
No, we're going upstairs.
The informational meeting is upstairs.
We haven't
This is just a
started.
Committee meeting to discuss the survey.
I see. So it's going to be on Zoom or WebEx as well?
It is a separate Zoom, Joe,
Okay.
and it is also posted online. Did you want me to just send you the meeting invite, Joe?
That would be great because this is the only link I have for the 7 o'clock meeting. So,
So Arosh is gonna write down your email and we'll get it over to you, Joe. Thank you.
okay, thank you.
Only reason why I know that